Hello, welcome to my podcast. Today I'll be talking about Value of the Birdtale. So, kind of a summary of the book, although I didn't completely read it, but based on the chapters that I read, kind of chapter 1 to 6, I think, it talked about like stories from Linda, kind of the person who we were following the POV for earlier in the story, and she kind of talked about how life was like as being indigenous, and kind of like we got to learn some background information, and like we got to learn some history on like treaties and who made the treaties for the different restrictions for indigenous people. So, kind of what I'm going to talk about in this podcast is my personal reflection on this book. I think this book was a really good book as it talked and educated me more about indigenous people and helped me understand some of the challenges they face different to me. So, for the second or third note, I'll talk about kind of the three main topics in this book, which I thought was reconciliation, as it portrayed a lot of the things the Canadian government was doing in a bad light, as the Canadian government, which was led by mainly one person who was making a lot of laws to treat indigenous people very, very poorly, which was seen in the book, and it talked about it a lot and brought to my attention on like how harsh reality was for indigenous people, and how like they were restricted, as it kind of mentioned like they needed a pass. Like trying to think about like using a pass for me is like it wouldn't it's so different to think about, and to think about how it got legalized. Like it's very interesting for me, especially. But kind of to wrap this all up, my main reflection on this book, I thought it was a good book, although I didn't completely read it. I definitely feel like I need more time to fully read it, to fully understand the book. But based on everything I read, I think it's a really good book that educates people on indigenous culture and like kind of life as indigenous person, and how they face their challenges, as it gives like real life example of indigenous people and kind of their stories. Thank you for listening to my podcast, and bye.